The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly in all directions. As a powerful alien fleet approached Earth, the galaxy's most feared empire, known as the Vorkari Empire, had set its sights on the tiny blue planet. For centuries, the Vorkari had conquered world after world, spreading their dominance throughout the galaxy. They had crushed entire civilizations with ease, leaving nothing behind but ruins and ashes. To them, Earth was nothing more than another insignificant world to be taken. On the flagship of the Vorkari fleet, Emperor Korath stood in the Grand Command Room, surrounded by his most trusted generals and advisors. The room was dark, with only the soft hum of the ship's engines and the occasional beeping of control panels filling the air. The Vorkari Empire's flagship was a massive, intimidating vessel, a symbol of their power and military might. Emperor Korath, tall and imposing, stared out the large viewport at the small blue planet below, his sharp, angular features twisted into a cruel smile. "Another easy conquest," he muttered under his breath. "This world will be ours in no time." One of the generals, a tall Vorkari officer named Admiral Kayan, stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Your Excellency, we have gathered all the necessary intelligence on Earth. The humans are primitive, their technology is outdated, and their defenses are weak. It will be an easy victory." The Emperor's eyes narrowed as he continued to stare at Earth. "They will not even see us coming. Prepare the fleet for invasion. We strike in 1 hour." Admiral Khan nodded and turned to give orders to the crew. The rest of the generals and advisors stood silently, all of them confident in the Empire's superiority. They had destroyed civilizations much stronger than Earth, and they saw no reason why this planet should be any different. But not everyone shared the Emperor's confidence. General Valen, an experienced strategist who had served the Empire for many years, stood in the back of the room, his expression troubled. He had witnessed firsthand the strength of Earth's warriors. His past encounters with humans had left him shaken, and he feared that this time, the Empire's overconfidence would be their downfall. Emperor General Valen spoke up, his voice hesitant but firm. "I must advise caution. Earth may seem weak, but we do not fully understand their capabilities. I've encountered them before. They are unpredictable, fierce, and their spirit is unlike anything we've faced. We should not underestimate them." A few of the generals turned to Valen, their expressions filled with disdain. They had never seen their fellow officer speak with such hesitation, and it irritated them. "General Valen, you are a great tactician, but you've become too soft." One of them, General Zorak, scoffed. "The humans are nothing compared to the power of the Vorkari Empire." The Emperor's sharp gaze shifted to General Valen. "Are you suggesting that we turn back, that we hesitate before our conquest of this insignificant world?" His voice was low, almost a growl. General Valen stood tall and tried to meet the Emperor's gaze. "I am not suggesting we turn back, Emperor, but I believe we should proceed with more caution. I recommend that we send a small reconnaissance team to evaluate Earth's defenses further before we launch a full-scale invasion. It could save us many resources and lives." The Emperor's smile returned, but this time it was colder, more threatening. "General, you have served me well, but your fear of the humans is misplaced. I am the Emperor of the Vorkari Empire. I have seen thousands of worlds fall before us, and this one will be no different. I will not allow doubt to weaken my resolve. We move forward with the invasion." General Valen's heart sank, but he did not speak again. He knew that nothing he could say would change the Emperor's mind. The fleet was already in position, and the decision had been made. The Vorkari would attack Earth, and they would do so with overwhelming force. As the final preparations for the invasion began, the generals and advisors exchanged glances, all of them confident in their victory. Earth, they believed, stood no chance. It was a primitive world, its people weak and divided. The Vorkar Empire would crush them in a matter of days. But as the fleet moved into position, General Valen's thoughts were troubled. He had seen what humans were capable of, and he knew that this wasn't going to be the easy victory the Emperor had promised. In the depths of his mind, he could already hear the warning bells ringing. But there was nothing he could do now. The die had been cast, and the Vorkar Empire was about to make its move. Outside, the vast fleet moved silently through the blackness of space, ready to strike. Thousands of ships, each one armed with enough firepower to level cities, hovered near the edge of Earth's atmosphere. The invasion had begun. The Emperor's words echoed in General Valen's ears. "They will not even see us coming." But Valen couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap of their own making. The humans were about to show the Vorkari that their empire, no matter how vast, could not conquer everything. And as the first wave of ships descended towards Earth, Valen silently prayed that he was wrong. The alien fleet descended toward Earth, its shadow stretching over the planet like an impending doom. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of the enormous ships as they cut through the void. Emperor Korath's voice echoed through the command room, confident, cold, and unyielding. Move forward. The humans won't know what hit them. Admiral Khan stood by his side, watching the fleet deploy its forces in perfect formation. It's as if they don't even see us. Their defenses are weak. We will have this planet under control within hours. General Valen stood apart from the group, his face drawn in thought. The others continued their discussions, oblivious to his growing concern. His mind kept racing back to the brief moments he had spent observing Earth in the past. He'd seen humans defend their worlds with an unexpected fierceness. They had a resilience that he couldn't quite understand, and yet, no one was listening to him now. He had warned them, but now the fleet was already on its course, and it was too late for second guesses. As the first wave of alien ships approached Earth's atmosphere, their immense size began to block out the sun. The ships were armed to the teeth with advanced weaponry far superior to anything the humans had. Their shields were impenetrable, their lasers would vaporize anything in their path, and their weapons could tear apart entire cities in seconds. The Valkyrie had no doubt in their power, but as they neared Earth, something felt off. On the surface, the humans were scrambling, gathering their forces, and preparing for the worst. But they weren't panicking. They weren't crumbling under the weight of their impending doom. They were fighting back. The first wave of Valkyrie ships began their descent toward the Earth's cities. The Valkyrie fleet had prepared a flawless strategy: wipe out the humans' communication centers first, disable their power grids, and cripple their defenses. It should have been an easy task, but there was a problem. Earth's response wasn't what they had expected. Instead of running in fear, the humans fought with surprising determination. Ground-based laser defenses erupted from the Earth's surface, firing in rapid bursts at the incoming ships. The Valkyrie's advanced technology could block missiles, but these lasers were different. They were precise, fast, and relentless. The Valkyrie ships had no time to react. One after another, they were struck, their shields flashing as the energy beams collided with their hulls. The Valkyrie commanders inside their ships cursed in disbelief. How can they be fighting back like this? Admiral Khan muttered, his eyes wide. These humans, ... they don't know their place. They're not supposed to fight back, said Emperor Korath, his voice barely above a whisper. But it was enough. It was a voice that trembled with a hint of uncertainty. The alien fleet wasn't used to resistance. They had crushed so many worlds with ease, it never even crossed their minds that Earth could be different. It was supposed to be a simple conquest, one that would add another planet to their growing empire, but now, that certainty was crumbling. The second wave of Valkyrie ships began their attack. The humans on the ground were adapting faster than anyone could have imagined. Fighter jets, previously grounded and useless against alien invaders, now took to the skies with newfound courage. They launched missiles with deadly precision, aiming for the weak spots in the alien ships. These missiles were not like the ones the Valkyrie had seen before. These were specially designed to penetrate even the most powerful shields. The human jets danced in the air, weaving between the alien ships, dodging blasts, and striking at their enemies with ruthless efficiency. Earth's best pilots fought with everything they had, pushing their aircraft to the limit, as they launched another volley of missiles at the attacking fleet. General Valen was watching the chaos unfold from the command room of the flagship. His heart raced as he saw the humans' strength. He had warned them. He had seen this potential before, but now it was too late to change course. Withdraw the second wave, he ordered urgently, his voice cutting through the growing tension. In the room, the humans are more organized than we anticipated. We're losing ships, but it was too late. The Valkyrie fleet was in full attack mode, and the damage had already been done. The humans had taken advantage of the first wave's shock, and now they were responding with tactical precision. The Valkyrie were losing control, and they knew it. Back on Earth, the sound of explosions filled the air. Cities that had once been symbols of human achievement were now the battlegrounds of a war that no one had predicted. But amidst the destruction, humanity's strength shone through. Every missile that fired, every explosion that shook the Earth, was a declaration that the humans were not about to let their world fall without a fight. In the skies, the human pilots were relentless. They pushed forward, dodging laser blasts and alien fire with expert maneuvers. One fighter jet managed to fly straight into an alien ship, sacrificing itself in a desperate attempt to take down a powerful Valkyrie cruiser. The explosion lit up the sky, a symbol of human bravery, and the Valkyrie fleet shook as another ship fell. General Valen watched in horror as the humans continued to fight with unwavering resolve. He knew that they had no idea how much destruction the Volkari fleet could cause, but they were fighting anyway. They were relentless, fueled by a fierce determination to protect their home. The Empire is making a grave mistake, Valen muttered under his breath. But it was already too late. The first wave of destruction had begun, and there was no turning back. The humans were about to show the Volkari Empire that even the mightiest forces in the galaxy could be stopped by a people united by survival. That the question was no longer whether the humans would fall, it was how much of the Empire would crumble before them. The battle raged on in the skies above Earth, a chaotic storm of explosions, laser fire, and the shrill screams of shattered technology. Volkari ships, once symbols of immense power, were now falling from the sky, their hulls twisted and burning. The alien invaders had underestimated their enemy's humans, a race they had thought primitive, weak, and unworthy of notice. But now, with every second that passed, that belief crumbled. Admiral Ken's heart raced as he watched the tactical screens in front of him, the Volkari fleet steadily losing ships. Each time a human missile hit its mark, another alien cruiser was destroyed, its wreckage drifting into the black void of space. The humans had proven to be more resourceful, more irreducible than the Empire could ever have imagined. Their jets darted through the alien ships with incredible speed, firing with deadly precision. Even their ground-based defenses, which had initially seemed insignificant, were tearing into the invaders like a swarm of angry bees. "We've lost 6 ships already," Kaon shouted, his voice trembling with anger and disbelief. "How are they doing this?" Emperor Koroth stood silently by the viewport, staring out at the destruction. His face, once filled with pride and confidence, was now shadowed with doubt. He had always believed that his empire could conquer anything. The Volkari were feared across the galaxy, and yet here they were, struggling against a race they had thought beneath them. "They are fighting back," Koroth murmured, almost to himself, "and they're doing it with skill, with precision." His fists clenched at his sides. "This cannot be, Your Excellency." A voice broke through his thoughts, and Koroth turned to see General Valen approaching. The general's expression was grim, his eyes dark with concern. "We must reconsider our strategy. The humans are unlike anything we've faced before. Their resistance, it's unlike anything I've ever seen." Koroth sneered, his eyes narrowing. "Do you think I don't see it? We've underestimated them, General, but we will not be defeated by a primitive species. We must crush them now, before they rally." The general hesitated, his mind racing. He had seen the humans' incredible will to survive. They weren't just defending their planet. They were fighting with a kind of raw emotion that made them unpredictable. The Volkari's vast ships and advanced weaponry weren't enough. This battle was unlike any other, and it was clear that the humans were playing by their own rules now. "What do you propose, General?" Koroth's voice cut through the air. Valen's voice was low and steady, despite the chaos around them. "We need to stop the assault, regroup, recalibrate, and think. The humans are holding us back, but they are not invincible. If we continue like this, we will lose more ships, more lives. We must strike when they are weakest before they can regroup themselves." The Emperor stared at Valen, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke, his voice cold. "No, we attack now. We overwhelm them with force. If they have any weakness, we will find it." Valen opened his mouth to protest, but stopped himself. He knew the Emperor's pride was too great to listen. To reason now, the battle would continue, and the Volkari Empire would not retreat. But he could feel the storm growing inside him, a storm of doubt and fear that he could not shake. On Earth's surface, the battle was taking on a new intensity. The human forces had begun to adapt with terrifying efficiency. In the midst of the chaos, a voice came through the communications network, a message from Earth's highest command. "We have a new weapon. We're sending it to the front lines. Prepare yourselves." At first, the Volkari fleet barely registered the significance of the message. Another weapon? What could it possibly do against their might? But when the new weapon emerged from the depths of Earth's military base, the alien forces were stunned. It was a ship, an immense advanced craft that appeared to defy the laws of physics. Unlike anything the Volkari had ever seen, it was sleek, sharp, and glowing with an energy that pulsed with power. Its form was elegant, streamlined, and unlike the bulky ships the Volkari used, this was the humans' trump card, something they had hidden away, waiting for the right moment to unleash. The new ship took to the sky like a thunderbolt, launching straight into the heart of the Volkari fleet. The sheer force of its weapons tore through the alien ships as though they were made of paper. No amount of shields or technology could hold up against the devastating barrage from the human ship. It was a weapon of precision, designed to hit hard and fast, with an intensity the Valkyrie had not expected. As the first wave of alien ships was torn apart, the humans cheered. They could feel the tide of the battle shifting in their favor. But their victory was not yet certain. The Valkyrie fleet was still vast, still powerful, yet something had changed. The humans had learned to fight on their terms, and now they had found a way to turn the aliens' own strength against them. General Valen watched the destruction unfold on his screen, his thoughts darkening. The humans had done it again. They had taken an unimaginable leap in their response, proving that there was no way to predict their actions. He had seen the way they fought ferociously with relentless determination, as if the survival of their species depended on every blow struck. They had become more than just defenders of Earth. They were becoming a force that even the mighty Valkyrie Empire might not be able to contain. But still, Korath refused to back down. His voice rang out, louder than ever, as he gave the orders. For the next assault, we will not surrender to these insects. They will feel the wrath of the Valkyrie. The words echoed through the command room, but Valen could see the uncertainty in the Emperor's eyes. He knew that it was only a matter of time before the Valkyrie would have to make a decision, adapt, or be crushed. And as the battle continued to unfold, the alien fleet began to feel what it meant to challenge the humans. They had underestimated them before, but now they were about to learn the true cost of their arrogance. The battle in the skies had become a chaotic, furious dance of destruction. The Valkyrie fleet, once so sure of its invincibility, was now struggling to maintain control as their ships were picked off one by the relentless human forces. General Valen, standing at his command station, could hardly believe his eyes as the human weapon, undoubtedly their trump card, tore through the Valkyrie defenses like paper. No amount of advanced technology or military tactics seemed to be enough. The humans were proving to be more resilient, more innovative than anything the Valkyrie had ever encountered. Withdraw the remaining fleet, Valen urged, his voice steady but filled with urgency. We cannot afford to lose more ships. The humans have adapted too quickly. Emperor Korath's eyes flashed with fury as he watched another Valkyrie ship explode in a brilliant burst of light. Withdraw. You want us to retreat from these insignificant insects? They are nothing compared to us. But even Korath couldn't ignore the reality unfolding before his eyes. The humans were fighting not just to defend their planet but to drive the Valkyrie from their skies. Every human ship, every missile, every counterattack was a reminder of their power. A power the Valkyrie had foolishly underestimated. As the Valkyrie ships scrambled to reposition themselves, Earth's forces did not relent. The human command had not only adapted, they had made a decisive leap in their battle strategies. Their jets flew faster, their laser defenses more precise, and their new weapon was wreaking havoc on the alien fleet. The Valkyrie commanders, all experienced in combat across the galaxy, began to feel the sting of defeat. They couldn't make sense of it. How were these humans, so seemingly weak and primitive, able to withstand such a powerful force? Among the chaos, a new development caught the attention of the Valkyrie fleet and eerie silence began to settle. The humans were no longer just responding. They were actively taking the initiative. Fighter jets and human command ships soared forward, no longer waiting for the next attack from the Valkyrie. They were launching assaults of their own, striking at the core of the alien fleet with an intensity that left the invaders reeling. On the ground, military commanders across the world were in constant communication with their forces, coordinating strikes against key alien ships, targeting weak points, and bringing down the most powerful of the Valkyrie invaders. With each successful strike, humanity's resolve grew stronger. The attacks were swift and unrelenting. Earth had no choice but to fight for its survival, and the humans were embracing the challenge. Back on the Valkyrie flagship, Emperor Korath stood in silence, staring at the battle raging outside. The Empire had always been the dominant force in the galaxy. No one had dared to defy them, and yet, here they were, on the brink of losing to a species they had once considered nothing more than ants. The weight of their arrogance was starting to crush them. The general's warning, which had been brushed aside as mere superstition, was now becoming a brutal reality. We should have listened, Valen muttered under his breath, his eyes never leaving the display. These humans, they're not like anything we've faced before. The Emperor's hand clenched into a fist. This cannot be happening. We are the Valkyrie, we control the galaxy. But as the Valkyrie fleet took yet another hit, Korath's words grew hollow. The truth was undeniable. The Valkyrie were losing. Their ships were being destroyed faster than they could regroup. The humans weren't just defending their planet, they were fighting with everything they had. Everything they were. In the heart of the battle, a Valkyrie cruiser suddenly went dark. One of the most powerful ships in the fleet was taken out in a single, decisive strike from a human missile. The shockwave sent ripples through the surrounding ships, and the crew on board the flagship could feel the reverberations. Damn it, Korath bellowed, turning on his generals. This is the moment to strike back. We cannot falter now. But it was too late. The humans were no longer playing defense. They had found their rhythm, their confidence. The Valkyrie had not only misjudged their enemies, they had allowed themselves to be overrun by their own pride. As the last remnants of the Valkyrie fleet retreated, the human forces pushed forward. For the first time in the battle, the Valkyrie fleet was on the defensive. The humans had turned the tables, launching coordinated attacks, each strike more powerful than the last. It was clear now that the humans would not stop until they had achieved victory. General Valen looked at the Emperor, his expression grim. This is over. We must retreat, or we will lose everything. But Korath's pride would not let him back down. We retreat only when I say so, he snarled. His eyes were fixed on the display, watching as more Valkyrie ships were obliterated. His empire was collapsing around him, and yet he refused to accept it. The destruction continued as human forces intensified their assault, knowing that their victory was within reach. Every corner of the planet seemed to be alive with the pulse of resistance. From the military to the civilians, humanity had come together as one, fighting with a passion and unity that no alien empire had ever seen. The final Valkyrie ship finally turned to retreat, its engines sputtering in defeat. The humans were victorious. Earth had proven itself to be more than just a planet. It had become a symbol of resilience, strength, and unity. The Valkyrie Empire's reign was over, and as the last of the alien ships disappeared into the blackness of space, General Valen stood at the command console, watching Earth below, knowing that their arrogance had cost them everything. The humans had not only fought to protect their home, they had sent a message to the galaxy. No one, no matter how powerful, could stand against them. This victory was not just for Earth, it was for all of humanity, and with it the galaxy would never be the same. The Valkyrie fleet was in retreat. The once proud armada, which had struck fear into the hearts of countless civilizations, was now a shattered shadow of its former self. Alien ships that had once glided majestically through space now limped away, their engines sputtering, their hulls scarred and battered. The humans had done what no one in the galaxy thought possible. They had driven the Valkyrie back. General Valen stood at the edge of the command deck, staring out into space. The battle had turned in the humans' favor, and every instinct he had as a soldier told him that the fight was not over. Though the Valkyrie were retreating, they had not yet surrendered. The Emperor's pride had been wounded deeply, and Valen could sense that this was far from the end. Emperor, we must withdraw the fleet completely, Valen urged, turning to face the leader of the Valkyrie. His voice was low, filled with concern. The once unshakable Emperor stood beside him, his eyes darkened, filled with frustration, watching the human victory unfold. We cannot, Korath growled. We will not show weakness. We are the Valkyrie Empire. We will return to Earth, and we will crush them. Valen closed his eyes for a moment, knowing that the Emperor's refusal to accept defeat was driven by rage, not reason. It was clear to him that Korath's obsession with maintaining control had clouded his judgment. The humans had proven themselves to be an unstoppable force, a force that could not be contained by sheer might alone. The Valkyrie could not simply brute force their way through this battle. But they're stronger than we anticipated, Valen pressed, trying to remain calm. Every time we strike, they adapt. We've lost too many ships already. We cannot keep throwing our forces at them without strategy. Korath clenched his fists, his face reddening. We will break them. The humans are nothing more than ants. We will show them the full might of the Valkyrie. Valen could feel the weight of the words hanging in the air. The Emperor's pride would be his downfall if he didn't listen to reason. He had seen what the humans were capable of. This wasn't just another conquest, another world to add to the Empire's collection. Earth had awakened something inside the humans, a resilience and strength that couldn't be beaten by force. Alone, back on Earth, the war had reached its breaking point. The human forces had united, and the very spirit of their species was now on display for the galaxy to see. Ordinary men and women had become warriors, fighting not just for their world, but for the very survival of their way of life. Soldiers, pilots, and engineers worked together like a well-oiled machine, coordinating their efforts with precision and purpose. The humans weren't just defending their planet, they were attacking the Valkyrie where it hurt most. Their pride, their sense of invincibility. As the alien ships pulled away, the humans launched a counter. Their new weapon, a ship of unprecedented design and power, cut through the alien fleet with brutal efficiency. The Volcari had underestimated Earth's technological advances. Their weapons, once thought to be the most advanced in the galaxy, were now being shredded by human ingenuity. Inside the flagship, Emperor Korith's face twisted with anger as the human ship tore apart the remaining Volcari vessels. He had underestimated them from the beginning, dismissing them as weak. Now, that arrogance was costing him everything. We cannot let them win, Korith muttered under his breath, pacing in circles. His mind raced, trying to find a way to regain control. But every plan he thought of ended in failure. The humans had proven themselves resourceful, unpredictable, and relentless. This was no longer a simple invasion, it was a battle for survival. Meanwhile, on Earth, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. As the alien forces retreated, the humans prepared for their final push. They were no longer merely defending their planet, they were taking the fight to the Volcari, and they had the momentum on their side. Military leaders from every corner of Earth convened in the command centers, exchanging intelligence and strategizing their next move. The entire planet had united as one, with every country, every nation, contributing to the defense effort. Humanity's resolve was unbreakable. There was no turning back. The Volcari may be retreating. A voice echoed over the global communications network. But we are not done yet. We will finish this. The leaders of the world had finally come together, and they were ready to push the invaders off their planet for good. The first step had been taken. The Volcari had learned the hard way that Earth was not an easy conquest. The next step would be to ensure they could never return. Back on the flagship, General Valen stood quietly, watching the retreating fleet. There was a deep sadness in his heart. He had seen what the Volcar were capable of, what they had built over centuries, but he had also seen the strength of the humans. Their resilience was something to be admired, something that even the mightiest empire could not defeat. He looked at Emperor Korith one final time. The Emperor's eyes were still filled with fury, but there was a flicker of doubt in them now. Valen could see it. The Empire had lost, and Korath knew it. The only question now was how much more devastation the Volcar were willing to endure before they accepted defeat. The humans have proven themselves, Valen said softly, his words carrying the weight of truth. It's time to end this. There's no victory here, only the ashes of a once proud empire. Korith's face hardened as he turned away. No, we will return. The humans will pay for this. But Valen knew it was over. The humans had shown that no force, no matter how powerful, could break their spirit. The Volcari Empire had underestimated Earth's greatest weapon, the will to survive, and now, it was the Volcari who would be reduced to ashes, their empire crumbling under the weight of their own arrogance. The battle was over. The Volcari had lost, but the war for the galaxy was far from over. The humans had just begun to make their mark, and nothing would ever be the same again. The battle above Earth was reaching its fever pitch. With the Volcari fleet scattered, its once mighty ships now nothing more than wreckage drifting in the dark void of space, the humans had emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. The planet was scarred from the devastation, but the resilience of humanity had held firm. No one had expected Earth to fight back so fiercely, and now the empire that had dominated the galaxy was retreating, their power shattered by the will of a species that refused to bow down. General Valen stood before the panoramic viewport of the command room, his eyes locked on the debris of the fallen Volcari ships. The enemy had underestimated humanity's strength, its capacity to adapt and unite under the most dire circumstances. He had witnessed firsthand the power of their will, but now that it was over, he couldn't shake the feeling that the humans had become something more than a mere obstacle to be crushed. They were becoming a force that could challenge the mightiest empires, not just in defense of their home but in the pursuit of a future that could reshape the galaxy. The hum of the room's machinery seemed to grow louder, as if the ship itself could feel the weight of defeat. The Emperor was silent, his gaze dark and brooding, his face betraying the emotions he refused to voice. Korith had led his empire into this battle with a confidence that now seemed almost laughable. How had it all gone wrong? The answer was simple. They had underestimated the humans. The silence in the command room was broken by the sound of a communication transmission. The Emperor's eyes flicked to the screen. It was a message from the last remaining fleet of Volcari ships, those that had managed to escape the human onslaught. We are ready to retreat. Your Excellency, the commander of the fleet said, but there is no question of victory. We have lost. Korith's fingers curled into fists. Do not retreat yet. We will make one last attempt. A strike of overwhelming force. We will crush them beneath our heel. Valen turned toward the Emperor, his expression calm but filled with the kind of certainty he had never known before. Emperor, it is over. No amount of force will change the outcome. The humans will fight to the end. The Empire is broken. It's time to accept defeat. The Emperor's eyes flashed with anger, his jaw tightening as he glared at Valen. You've lost your nerve, General. We will return to Earth and show them the price of defiance. But Valen stood firm, unyielding. This is not about pride. It's about survival. The Valkyrie are finished. The humans have shown us that they can adapt faster than we anticipated. We cannot keep fighting them with the same arrogance. If we do, we will all be wiped out. The room fell into a tense silence, the weight of Valen's words sinking in. Korath's hand trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of his chair, and for a moment, Valen thought he saw a flicker of doubt in the Emperor's eyes. But Korath quickly masked it, standing tall once more, his voice cold and resolute. We will retreat, but this is not the end. We will return stronger, and the humans will pay for their defiance. While the Valkyrie fleet limped away, retreating to the edges of the galaxy, Earth began the painful process of healing. The damage to the planet was vast. Cities had been reduced to rubble, millions of lives lost, and the scars of war were everywhere. Yet, amid the destruction, humanity's spirit remained unbroken. The survivors, the soldiers, the scientists, and the civilians, all of them had witnessed the true power of the human heart. They had fought for their world, for their families, and for their future. And they had one dot around the globe. People came together in unity. Governments, once divided, now worked in tandem to rebuild, to fortify their defenses, and to ensure that the horrors of the invasion would never happen again. Humanity had learned a painful lesson, but it was a lesson they would carry with them, forever. No one could ever underestimate them again. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth's leaders made a bold decision. Instead of returning to isolation, they reached out to the stars. The humans knew that the galaxy was vast, and they had just scratched the surface of its dangers. But they also knew that they could no longer remain passive. They were no longer just Earth's protectors, they were now the protectors of the galaxy, ready to face whatever threats came their way. General Valen, now a man deeply conflicted, found himself contemplating his own future. He had fought for the Empire, believing in its ideals, but the defeat of the Valkyrie was a wake-up call. He had seen firsthand what humanity was capable of, and as he stood in the wreckage of his empire, he wondered if the humans would be the ones to lead the galaxy into a new age of peace, or would they become the next great threat? He wasn't sure. What he did know was that humanity's resilience would be a force to be reckoned with. Emperor Korath, as stubborn as ever, refused to acknowledge the humans' victory in full. He began making plans, quietly gathering resources, and preparing for his eventual return to Earth. The Valkyrie had lost a battle, but the Emperor was determined that they would not lose the war. His eyes burned with vengeance, and he was prepared to use every last ounce of his power to crush the humans. But even Korath knew that the Valkyrie would never be the same again. The humans had changed the game. Earth had sent a message that would resonate throughout the galaxy for years to come. No empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could ever dominate again without reckoning with the indomitable will of humankind. As the final remnants of the Valkyrie fleet vanished into the dark reaches of space, Earth stood tall. The humans had proven their strength, their courage, and their unity. The galaxy now knew that Earth was not to be trifled with, and though the battle was over, the story was far from finished. The world had changed, and so had humanity. They were no longer just Earth's defenders, they were the galaxy's last hope. The Valkyrie fleet was nothing more than a scattering of broken ships, drifting in the cold void of space. Emperor Korath's once imposing armada, which had swept through the galaxy with unchallenged dominance, now stood as a testament to his empire's arrogance and failure. The battle for Earth had ended, but the consequences of that defeat were far from over. As Korath watched his fleet retreating, his mind burned with thoughts of revenge. The humans had humiliated him, shattered his empire's reputation, and exposed the frailty of his control over the galaxy. Every fleet commander, every officer who had looked down on Earth, would now see the truth. The humans were not weak. They were not to be underestimated. They had fought not only for survival but for the promise of a future untouched by any empire's rule. And that was a future Korath was unwilling to let slip from his grasp. Back on Earth, celebrations had begun in earnest. The scars of the invasion were deep, but humanity had endured. Cities that had once been reduced to rubble were beginning to rebuild. The survivors, the men and women who had stood in defiance against the alien invaders, now stood tall, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they had triumphed. They had faced a force that seemed unstoppable and had proven that, no matter the odds, humanity could rise to meet any challenge. In the aftermath, Earth's governments turned their attention inward, trying to piece together what remained of their world. But as the world leaders met to discuss the future, a grim understanding settled over them. Earth had fought back, yes, but that victory had come at a cost. There was no going back to the way things had been. The Valkyrie might have retreated for now, but the humans knew that their fight was far from over. They had survived the invasion, but the galaxy was vast, and it was filled with enemies who would not forget Earth's defiance. And then, there was the other question that lingered in the minds of those who had fought. What would the humans do now? For the first time in their history, they were not simply a species struggling to survive, they were now a force to be reckoned with. The world knew that they could no longer sit idly by as powerful empires waged war across the stars. The humans had tasted what it meant to fight on equal ground, and it had awakened something deep within them. Their destiny was no longer confined to the planet they had called home. They would shape the future of the galaxy itself. General Valen stood before the planet's council, watching as the leaders of Earth discussed how to handle the aftermath of the invasion. He was now an outsider, his allegiance to the Valkyrie broken by the truth he had seen on Earth's battlefields. He had seen the raw determination of the humans, the spirit that had kept them fighting even when it seemed like all was lost. The humans had proven themselves not just in defense of their planet but in defense of something much greater, a future where no empire could control them, a future where they could stand as equals with the most powerful forces in the galaxy. As the meeting continued, Valen couldn't help but feel a strange sense of admiration for the humans. He had once seen them as primitive, as nothing more than a speck in the vastness of the universe. But now, they had become something far more significant. They were the galaxy's greatest unknown, a force that had risen from the ashes to strike down an empire that had stood for millennia. But for all their strength, Valen knew that the humans were still vulnerable. The Valkyrie might have lost this battle, but there were other empires out there, other forces who would not let Earth's victory go unchallenged. He had seen it himself. Emperor Korath was far from defeated. He was planning, he was regrouping, and the day would come when the Valkyrie or someone else would return to claim Earth as their own. In the meeting, the voices of Earth's leaders grew louder, discussing plans to rebuild their military forces, to strengthen their defenses against future threats. But Valen knew that their true challenge had just begun. They would need more than weapons and walls to survive in a galaxy that now saw them as a threat. They would need allies. They would need to change the way they viewed themselves in the grand scheme of things. The thought crossed his mind that perhaps this was where he could be of use. Perhaps the time had come for him to join the humans not as an invader, but as someone who could help them navigate the complexities of the galaxy, someone who could help them prepare for what lay ahead. He had fought on the side of the Valkyrie, but now he had seen the light. There was something about the way the humans fought that inspired him, something about their unity that made him believe they were capable of more than survival. They were capable of greatness. His gaze turned toward the vast view of Earth outside the window. The planet, once fragile and vulnerable, now stood as a symbol of hope. They had defeated an empire, but they had also proven that the universe was no longer just for the strong. The weak had stood tall, the powerless had risen, and in doing so, they had shattered the illusion that power was only for those who took it by force. The door behind him opened, and a voice broke his reverie. "General Valen, we have a request. Earth would like to establish communications with you." Valen turned to face the officer who had entered the room. He nodded solemnly. "I'll be there shortly." As he walked down the corridor toward the communication room, he knew that this was the beginning of something far greater than any battle he had ever fought. The humans were not just a people to be conquered, they were the future, and now he was part of it. The galaxy was watching. The humans had sent a clear message. No empire, no force, no power could stand against them. They had become more than just survivors. They had become a symbol of resilience, unity, and hope. And the day would come when others would see them not as a threat to be destroyed, but as a force to be reckoned with, a force that would shape the future of the stars. As Valen sat down to speak with Earth's leaders, he couldn't help but feel that, for the first time in his life, he was on the side of something greater than himself. The Valkyrie had been right about one thing: Earth was powerful. But what they had failed to see was that true power did not lie in destruction. It lay in the ability to rise, to unite, and to fight for something worth protecting. And as the humans looked toward the future. They knew that their journey had only just begun.